Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, I have from the great Midwest, I have a guy, as long as he hasn't faked his own death 13 times already, I have RDV. Again, I'm your host, Rob, and tonight we're talking about a TV show, which we don't normally do. We normally do movies, so we like to shift this and call it Extreme TV. Tonight's episode, of course, is continuing our review of Rabbit Hole, Season 1, Episode 4, the episode that most recently dropped Sunday night with Kiefer Sutherland. And I just have to say it, because we're not a political channel, RDV, but this is about the New World Order. This is about
Yes.
communism without them saying communism. This is about current events and everything that's going on, but my fears have been met, and I'm gonna tell you what they are, and then hand it over to you for your initial take, and then we're gonna dive in. For the first 3 episodes, they're leaving us with a bang, right? And that's good. Sometimes a big bang, sometimes multiple big bangs, almost to the point where you're like, really? And we've seen where his team blew up in a fiery explosion. We've seen what turned out to be his best childhood friend, and some of the most touching scenes I thought, well done in the last episode or two, kill himself right in front of him, which would traumatize anybody. So I think per capita we get more self harm in these films than probably any emo type film out there or song. But
Yep.
I just, when we're getting used to seeing something and then we get all these fucking time jumps, and then it makes what we saw in the last episode not necessarily irrelevant, makes us go, okay. I hate that kind of storytelling because it's been tight, it's been quick, and it's been action oriented. But I liked how this current episode really slowed down, where they have the money laundering scheme at the NFT auction and it goes undercover. That's good spy shit, bro. I like that a lot too. So I'll say this: I do like this episode. I did like a lot of things of it. I'm kind of not liking some of the way they're telling us the story, because it de-emphasizes something that was supposed to be big in the last episode or two, and that's a problem to me. I'm getting fucking sick of it, to be honest with you. What's your take on this episode?
I well, there were some more truth reveals as far as Haley and about what we're the thing. I'm taking a grain of salt because this episode it's revealed that his crew was alive, and now I had questioned that because as he always checked the bodies and the way things was being handled. I don't, and at the time I don't know who his apprentice, or not apprentice, but the intern guy.
You mean emo skateboard buddy,
Yeah,
assassin,
yeah,
whatever?
yes. We didn't know who was working for it, but no, we finally it's kind of revealed in here. It's kind of hinted that he's been working for Crawley this whole entire time.
He's a triple agent, that fuckhead.
Yes. So then when we learned this in this episode, I'm thinking like, okay, is he in on the whole plan as far as as far as John's team being dead, because we know he was at the explosion, but we don't know if he because like I said, at this point I was thinking like, okay, he's working for John, and that's why maybe he's the one that set up the whole explosion. But I don't know if he's working for Crawley. Like, was he a part of the whole thing? Did he even know that the teammates were really alive? We don't know. Except he's a triple agent. Maybe he did know, maybe he didn't. But overall, I love the fact that the whole relationship as far as John and his father is getting a little bit better. I mean, but I just love Charles Vance's, like when he's delivering and everything in here too. But
Yes, it feels like a heavy, doesn't it?
yeah, Haley though in this gets a little more freedom, and we learn more about this. And because remember, he's like, because we knew something. We led to believe that there's something wrong with Haley. Either she's a triple agent or whatever. We don't know who she's working for, but it turns out she stole $26 million, which is basically the worth of today. Back in the day, she worked for this company. She and this guy was a corrupt developer, and she stole money from his crypto account, which now the value is $26 million today. That's why, and that's as we saw. She's looking at last episode when the father found her outside. She was looking at like market shares and stuff. And we see again today, she was looking at some stuff too, and okay, now it makes sense. Okay, so it's basically she's being hunted down for robbing a place 5 years ago. But I'm thinking like that's not gonna be it. There's gotta be more than that than this. I hope so. There is. But yeah, I love the whole setup with this. They basically want to go after Gao, who basically is in charge. Like Gao, he's in charge of basically handling NFTs. Remember when NFTs were big popular last year? They said they were actually using it for trading, as far as information and money, without having to pay taxes and stuff. So they're using that crypto technology and stuff, NFTs, to do this. And we said, remember, this is current events. NFTs, were hot for a minute, and now they're kind of in the back, but crypto's still around a little bit. I said I love the fact that we even got what was the treasurer guy,
Asian 007.
yes. He gets it. He finds out that he's like, well, I'm not going to help you unless I can look at my wife and see my wife. And he's like, how are you going to do that? Well, I saw these city cameras, back in the day. You find out his wife's been banging his best friend or Kevin.
Yeah, that's so obvious.
Yeah.
She was cooking dinner. I'm like, yeah, she's banging somebody.
And Charles Vance knew this. He's like, oh, how are we hanging up? Don't do this and go watch these. He's like, no, it's fine. It's like, and yeah, he's like, well, why is she so happy? Yeah. Honestly though, I don't call it as a knock towards the episode, but I did like that, the fact that actually does happen, and he seems kind of oblivious to what's going on. There are people like that. It's not a knock against his masculinity or anything like that. It's just being duped.
Well, let me pause here for a minute and let me talk about what I think the crux of the episode is that a lot of information is going to come from. We're looking at a lot of different things. We're looking at everybody who's not who they say they are. We're getting tricked as a viewer, which isn't necessarily a good thing to do. It's one thing if you have a twist like a Shyamalan film, that's different, I think, because you have to buy into the belief of it. And of course, everyone's seen a lot of his films. I just finished watching the last episode of the last season of Servant TV, and I was let down with it, even though I was rooting for the babysitter. I'll just say that. So in here, the whole thing with NFTs and cryptos is when you have speculative markets like we've had here in the United States and worldwide with a lot of additional money printing, which by traditional economic definitions is inflation. Other definitions, people like to argue it's not, and they talk about the velocity of money and those sorts of things meaning something. The idea is that what gives money value, and that's where we had a gold standard that we got completely taken off in the 70s. And why is this important? Because when the computer age really started booming in the 70s and definitely in the 80s as a teenager growing up, people thought, oh my God, who are these companies like Intel that you would invest in and whatever. And we find out that here, in addition to learning how to be a super spy in a really cool scene where she has to steal a numbers book, which we're going to talk about, she as it was revealed, she stole money from people that were like embezzling or something like that. So we have this interesting almost exchange in their car while they're driving around getting ready to get her prep to go steal something for I think for the future event. The thing with NFTs and cryptos is it's electronic and it's digital. So if it's a central bank digital currency, which is all the rage currently in today's market in the United States, that means people can control it, continue off or on what you're allowed to buy, not, and trace everything. And so people like the idea of crypto because the idea is that allegedly, if you have it, then people can't trace it. So that libertarian ideal of being personal with it is a great deal. And I'm wondering if the show's just going to dive into some of the liberty aspects, which never ever gets covered in movies unless it's personal freedom. And why that's important is that we're not really told that one side is Republicans or Democrats or this or that. It's really convoluted. And what makes that bad is we understand that he's a smart guy with a smart family and all that, but it's like, okay, but what do you stand for? You can't just be smart. It's not good enough for me to like you. And at least when she stole this crypto a while ago, obviously it went really, really big. So now it's worth, like you said, 26 million. That's what we saw on the phone. We know that that's going to be worth something, going to tie into somehow. It's not just a part of her character,
I think that's a red herring, though, as far as
that's my point. I agree with you. You're absolutely right. I think it is because she's not who she says she is. She's even lying about that, right? They could have went into the interpersonal stuff about behavior and stuff like that, and they do talk about it, which that's a cool angle as well because that's good stuff. But here they just tease some of the stuff, and unfortunately, I think the show's still not showing you what it's going to be yet. I think they're interested in just surprising you with things.
Yes, I mean, so they're really focusing on like the first 3 episodes. I think that story plot right now. Like I said, they're not. And they originally said in an interview they really weren't going to advance the plot as much. Like normally, a show would just go boom, done, and that's end of the season.
Right.
They're really focusing on this story so far, and then what if they get greenlit for another season, they'll continue it. They're hoping to do at least 5 seasons, But I gotta say, the whole Haley thing, how at ease she was with shoplifting, flirting with a cop, and taking the
That's completely believable.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
you could see it the way she was talking to him. As we said in the very first scene in episode 1, when we reviewed those first 3 episodes, we talked about how that was a great setup scene because it's showing you what the show is going to deliver later on, the way they're going to tell the stories, minus the timelines and stuff like that. They have a lot of things going on in the background that if you're watching the main stuff, you're missing out. And so you see her talking and flirting with the guy, and once in a while, if you're a gentleman, you may find yourself in a position where you'll have a random pickup like that where it almost seems too easy. And it's not that Keither's ugly or anything like
yeah,
that, or
no.
can we really believe that? But
So
she's kind of hot in her own way, and you go, no, she's picking up, and it's just a little too easy. There's not that nervousness, even if it's going to be a one night
no,
stand hookup sort of thing.
she comes off as Halle Berry in with the James Bond movie Die Another Day. She I think I honestly either she's working for Crowley or she's just a rogue thing. She's like a Catwoman. You'd say
We said she's a honeypot, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Get into him, get his events, because he doesn't trust her. But now he's like, and now she told the truth, but like, is she telling the complete truth? The father doesn't trust her, but we don't know if maybe her and the father, like maybe she was planted. Is there as far as like maybe Charles Vance hired her,
Yeah.
keep tabs on his son. We don't know. We've never seen Crowley. We don't know who the man is that they killed at the end. His father killed back in the day. About the body that's shot in the face. We don't only know is that one guy approached was working with his father and helped his father escape, and also approached John when he's younger at the funeral. Talking about his father like was a good man and stuff like that. We don't know if that's Crowley. We don't know. Yeah, as far as like if Crowley was maybe I said if they had a falling out. I'm assuming that's what I think they had said in the previous episode that Charles Vance's character, basically had a falling out with Crowley. And now Crowley went rogue or something.
Well, it's like the show we mentioned before, The Old Man
Yeah.
with Jeff Bridges, where
Yeah.
a historic relationship between the lead character and, of course, what would be the lead bad guy would be present today and affect the current generation of people. And that's what it seems like is going on here, which and here's another problem I think with the way they're telling the stories is, while I like how they do stuff, and specifically her going to steal the puzzle book, because it's not just about prepping her to be a Mary Sue super spy, right? It's there's something more to it, and I think it's more than just okay, now you've done this well, just listen to me and trust me while we go on this really nice little spy keeper here at the NFT auction thing, which is a great extended third act here. It's just, while there's a lot of characters and a lot of things going on, when part of your episode is not recapping what happened before, but fleshing out what already happened before, in addition to the recap you get at the beginning, I don't care about how many things are going on or how quickly you can tell it or how slick
Yeah.
you are about it. If I can't have some sort of emotional attachment to one of these characters as an anchor, or maybe see it shift, maybe now I'm more interested in her now because of something that got revealed, or now I'm more interested in the Asian guy because, hey, guess what? He's shown the most personality growth out of anybody. Was kind of funny after being an anonymous tightwad bean counter for the FBI or whatever. And now it's like, okay, that's a character now you can almost, I'm not going to say like, but get interested in it and see how everything relates to him. And that's the problem they're having. We love Charles Vance, and we kind of want to root for him. I think we're supposed to, but I don't know if we're given any reason to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that I get my character. I'm still with John on this. I still like as far as his being grounded with my character. This whole entire time, at first he doesn't trust his father, but now he's putting his faith in his father. We don't know if his father's just playing everyone. Because his father could be Crowley, and he needs John to do something to help him. So we have no idea. Like I said, we're given information, but are we given the right information? Remember, his father is a master of manipulation. He talks about it, how you get people to do things for you, and we see, and that's kind of the new world order thing, and that's kind of what you see in current events right now with the media. You can't trust that. You can't trust, social media, whether any kind of media type. Like I said, I hope at the end, end of the season, we at least get or left off more than when we first started, because so far we've moved a little bit with the plot, but we still don't know why Vance, why he jumped. We have no idea. So all we know is on the computer said do it. we all know is that he basically went undercover. That was the whole thing. Basically, they built this to draw Crowley, but somehow Crowley got evidence or something. I don't know, but we do know that the second guy, the guy who was working for Crowley, he was thrown off the building by the intern.
By Pizza Boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's, I've been saving this for 3 years now, whatever. Yeah. But as we're obviously getting very close to being monetized here, we start talking about how we're getting more interaction and people requesting shows and movies for us to request, right? I thought, well, everyone always likes to say, my fans, you guys, this and that. And I thought, well, what would be the obvious name for people who are an extreme movie show? You guys would be called extremists. This little punk, he's an extremist because they show him with his girlfriend who's obviously street trash, it seems like.
She's a hippie.
Exactly. But yet they're showing all these podcaster voiceovers, that's supposed to be relevant to current events with car bombings and all sorts of shit. And you're like, okay, why is it that they're getting excited by going and doing something? This kid seems like he's smart enough to not get into that street level.
You remember the conspiracist guy? I guess he was given information from John. To get this out in the open, as far as why the hooks would get more media attention to this, to help just basically piss off Crowley, and stuff like that. So but yeah, we need to see Pizza Boy or Intern Boy, him and his girlfriend. They're activists. They're joining Antifa. They're not really Antifa, but they're basically writing.
Yeah, they're not going to call those things out, so we don't know, but it's definitely something.
But then we see at the end of the episode, he is taken care of. Him and his girlfriend are both killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, all we know is that he was working for Crowley, and now he's let go, and basically and because you can't just walk away. Because his girlfriend, because that's the thing, though, is when his girlfriend says, "Why don't you just walk away?" He's like, "Oh, the money's too good, and I can't walk away from this." And she knows about his business. She knows more than what she probably should know. And like I said, if they're getting to loose ends, so they basically got rid of Pizza Boy.
Yeah, now we're, I think, almost halfway here through this first season. So what I hope happens, and I don't think it will, is unfortunately a couple episodes in the old man. He met the kind of hot, middle-aged woman, and then, she became super spy, and it all went downhill to me. I hope that they focus more on the characters and let the plot take a backseat, because your plot can be, let's be honest, it can be bare bones thin. As long as we care about the characters and feel like it's going somewhere, that's great. Because right now, your head is moving all over the place trying to catch what's going on. And even though they recap stuff at the beginning of the episodes, it's hard to filter out, okay, what's really important here. And I'm not saying that's bad, but the thing that did surprise me, and I mentioned it last week when we talked about episodes 1 through 3, is I was impressed how they modernized a lot of the themes in here with the New World Order, how they mention that almost specifically word for word in here. They don't mention specific groups of names for whatever reasons, but a show to really try to include a lot of those things, the NFT angle, the crypto, a little bit of the how do I want to call it, interpersonal dynamics, how to spot liars, how to know if somebody's seducing you, if somebody's a professional liar, that kind of psychological training. Those are interesting things and real life things. And this show does have all, it doesn't go hardcore in any one of them. So it's kind of teasing you a little bit, which, I only like to be teased occasionally, but even not that often. But to me, you called it, and this pissed me off about this episode, because we saw in a great ending where his team got blown up and all that, and charred bodies and stuff like that. Because the violence in here is actually pretty damn graphic. It's pretty good looking. But you called it a while ago, so I'm going to let you pat yourself on the back here.
Like I said, you always check the bodies, and even Maddie said it. God, did anybody check the IDs, dental records and stuff, And she wasn't allowed in the case because she's finance. Weir knew this. Weir's been messing with her. He set her up with the other guy. It's like using the guy's email saying, "I want to meet with you," just to get the other guy out of the room. He's been using her, and now we found out that basically, as far as with her, she the last tip message she got about that Gal guy, that basically that she's like, trace this number, and the number it had another incoming call. Now I want to know this, because we didn't see anybody call him as far as John on his phone. The only person we saw using a phone was Haley. Did Haley receive a phone call? Or did his dad receive a phone call? What's going on? Where did that second phone call come from? Because he said it's not John's MO. He's a burner. He does not use it he uses it and it gets rid of it. He does not use it for incoming calls. Like, so what is going on? He doesn't use the same number twice. So I want to know, is like Haley said, is she an alternative thing? Maybe she doesn't work for Crawley. Maybe she works for another competitor. She's in it. She'd be independent. We don't know, but it's kind of crazy. But like I said, this show, I told you from the very beginning, makes you think. It makes you want to think. So I've been really paying attention, going back and looking at things. Like I said, as far as Maddie's saying, it's like, remember she said, did anybody check the dental records? And I'm thinking, like, well, if Intern Boy survived with hardly a scratch on him, either that's really bad storytelling, or maybe he was involved. And
Right.
and we've already seen his father come back. His father was alive. We believed he was dead. Like we've seen, and there's so many things pop up the first 2 episodes. So I was like, dude, never count out anybody being dead. That's what I learned from this show so far. So yeah,
Right. And again, with those own rules, it's like, means you can do it once, maybe twice, but you really can't get away with it anymore, and you're going to have to
no,
rely on telling it
no.
differently. And that's why I say I hope things change a little bit in terms of the way they tell their story, because I certainly don't mind the volume or level of depth they are teasing us with, and maybe other future seasons will get to that. But
My other
again,
point. So
we can think about stuff, but if you don't feel attached to something with it, pretty soon you're going to be like, fuck this. I can watch other stuff. I'm not missing it. You know what I mean?
Remember we told it wasn't part of the plan for Vance. The whole thing, as far as they wanted. Yeah, so they had a whole plan going ahead when they built this business. So why wouldn't they, I mean, as far as his this is the guy who cons things for a living, run stuff. I was never convinced that his crew was dead. I just didn't know when or if they were going to bring him into play.
Yeah.
This quickly. This is kind of quickly for that. So like I said, I'm not too upset about it, but I am happy that this show, is like you said, it's not just cut and paste, like every other show.
Especially by today's standards. It
Like,
could very easily be that way.
I've never watched 24, but a lot of people liked it because it was radical. It was different. It was, it was thrilling, entertaining, chase. So this is, like I said, this is kind of like Ocean's 11, but also mixed with Catch Me If You Can and just other things as far as and knowing that Kiefer Sutherland always plays roles where he's like the brilliant genius. Like he was in Flatlanders, and I think he was in the other movie where they all remember they were like telepaths on the dock, or I forget what else. It was a bunch of group of people, but he was part of it too. Like I said, I love that he always takes on these kind of roles, and
Right.
I'm curious. Like I said, I'm curious to see where this is going to go by episode 8, because there's only 8 episodes in this season, and who knows? Maybe we'll actually finally see who Crowley is at the end of this, or maybe there is no Crowley, and his dad's been using him.
Well, and that's what I want to kind of close a little bit here with. Taking a step back, the whole idea is that his father apparently worked with usually somebody, then your ideals become different as you get older and mature, or so the story goes. Where this guy, and again, they don't say communism, but the whole idea is let's be state run everything and break apart cultures that are not. And it's basically, look, America got their idea of liberty from say France, and we know France rolls over for everybody, and we save everybody, generally speaking, around the world. And not to be too political, but those I think aren't really arguable facts here in the United States or really around the world, historically speaking. But this idea of personal liberty, that you have sovereign rights, that the Constitution affirms them, whether you're religious or not. They're not even going there yet, but and I think that they may, but it's why do we as a viewer care that some guy basically is a commie lover and wants to ruin America? At some point, he's gonna have to, this person, this mysterious Crowley, is gonna have to draw some major heat, for us to start chanting USA and go, I hope these fuckers get them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I said, they're really painting this pretty much as good versus evil. But we don't know who's good and who's evil. We have the narrative will be told, and this is what I said about media influencing what you're led to believe. This show is basically giving you red herrings, but it's also giving you other things. So you don't really know what's true, what's not true, and that's what I like about it. It's like you could have, like your other movies, where they don't do this, and like I said, this what makes it stand out. Like I said, this is it's a kind of cool show. I don't really watch a lot of spy stuff,
Right.
but yeah,
And I want spy stuff. I don't want action stuff. And
yeah.
you know, we every other month have been reviewing the James Bond movies in order. Professor Pixel and I, the other member here of the Extreme Movie Show, and so we've talked about a lot that when the more of a spy movie it is, less of an action movie, the more we generally seem to like it. He's the young 20-something Gen Z or whatever we like to call it, and I'm a little more old school, so like and appreciate certain things with it. We never really cared about the world dictator in like Moonraker, let's say, or other films. It was more about all the other stuff, but at least it was more spy oriented. And then of course when an intelligent action slash spy thing came out in Jason Bourne, the first one, and modernized it, made it kind of cool, hip, and sexy, even with Matt Damon, that's when everything changed because it was such a big
So
hit. And then we even saw Taken kind of have like its own little sub thing or whatever, which was very good and entertaining. And unfortunately, I think stuff like the James Bond films got caught up in trying to be bigger than what they are storytelling, and they forget the basics of what people want. And again,
so
if you fail to do that,
yeah,
nobody's going to give a shit about your plot or how great you're telling it. And that's my fear for this
yeah.
show, because it has been enjoyable and there has been a lot going on, more than most shows.
Do you remember a movie from 2008 called Vantage Point?
I believe
Dennis
so.
Quaid, Forrest Whitaker, Matthew Fox, where it attempted to assassinate the
Yes.
president. It's told from
Yes.
several different perspectives. This is kind of similar, but done better as far as storytelling.
Right.
And they add more of a spy thriller to it. So and that's kind of why I'm really liking this. Vantage Point, I just got sick of it because it just felt like the same story over and over, like 7 different times. I was like, dude, we don't need 7 different vantage points for
Yeah.
one thing to happen.
Right.
And like you waste like my time. This is kind of the similar, but like less people. And it's just each episode you basically you see a little bit more information.
And I think Ed mentioned binging it is the
Yeah,
right way to go at this
it
point.
is.
Yeah, I do. You'll be caught up. You'll know what's going on. You'll see everything. And while it's fresh in your mind, I think you can make those connections
Yeah.
that come up a little bit.
Uh,
Go ahead with any final thoughts, and I'll have a few announcements.
like I said, we don't know. Oh yeah, we do get as far as Gao, because basically what happens, Haley was basically what goes into Gao's party. He's having there. Charles Vance, based John's father, comes in and poses as Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
But then Gao gets this text message, like two of them, and he's talking. Well, and he looks at it, and he says, and also we see he's taking a picture of Charles Vance's character. What is he doing? And then he says, "Show the phone to me." He's like, and it's Crowley. And he's like,
Yep.
"Oh, Ben, you basically look how old you've gotten." It's like now, and because of this, they Ben doesn't want to do this anymore. He tells John, he's like, "We're done. I was made." He's like, "Yeah, he may know you, but he doesn't know who I am. He hasn't seen me at all."
Let's change the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to change the plan because they don't know what's compromised. Now the bad thing about this is that we do know that Haley is involved with something other than just the money. The money is a plot convenience for her. Like, oh yeah, I was at this, and then the two guys that were in the Mercedes that were basically drafting her was with her from her former boss, from developers from Chicago, who she stole money from. He was there at the party, so we know he's connected. But why is he? But why is he at the party with Gao? That's the thing. So, is it a clever route, or clever misconception or misdirection, or like I said, she maybe she is working. She's going to be an ally to John. Like a Catwoman to Batwoman, whoever. She's only for personal gain, but she also wants to help him out too. Scratch my back, he'll scratch yours. We don't know, or like I said, or she's working for Crowley.
And I'll say this: she's a good-looking, attractive woman. And
Yes.
if you're watching this and you just missed the first opening scene of episode 1, you'd have forgotten that they had sex.
Yeah.
I mean, all night. So
She
the
flirts.
fact that they're
Yeah.
not leaning into her sexuality and all that, I think is a bad thing, because she comes across as a very intelligent woman, very well spoken, very sharp, quick witted thinker, can think on her feet and all that.
They
A
try to.
pro's pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's where I'm going. They did do it a little bit, and they talked almost tried to fake flirt in the car a little bit, but she's got to be a bad person or something. She's got to leave him hanging. I mean, not that we
Yeah.
won't see that coming from a mile
You
away.
see her. She easily flirted um, with the officer. Manipulate him. And then she flirts with John in the car, and then she flirts with Gao at the party, because so she knows how to use her good looks. She's not, like I said, she's done this before.
Right.
And John, like I said, he has every right to be be paranoid. He's like, what is her background? Because always just everything she said is a lie, and it's like I said, he does not trust her, and he has given good reason to trust her. His father definitely does not trust her.
Yeah.
I get, and yeah, he basically he called her out. He said, "You lied to me. Like, look, because when you question things, you're like you're thinking of a lie."
Yeah, and it's, again, with 4 more episodes to go, we'll see how this takes place.
Yeah.
You've caught a lot of things from the get-go, so I think it's been pretty obvious. For the next month, we'll be covering each of these episodes here on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. I want to have a couple announcements before we close up for the night, because with Easter and some of our members with our schedules over the past weekend, we were a little off. We had been covering Wayward Pines, Professor Book's Lie, on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be doing, I think it's episode 4 of that. So I think we have the others already up. We're doing episode by episode of that. We usually do a season 1. Sometimes we'll do a season 2, like Twin Peaks. We've covered all that. And then my special announcement movie wise, more than likely, is while we don't know necessarily specifically that our 7 p.m. movie, whether I do it solo at 6 p.m. or very soon I'm going to release a song that or a movie that I had to watch recently. And it's one that we brought up, and it's the original male tearjerker talking about masculinity and all that, based off of a true story with
The Crime Game.
Get the fuck out of here. Okay, what was the James Caan movie we watched recently?
Thief.
And we talked about how this guy's a man's man, right?
Yes.
And I said the diner speech with him and the girl that he's going to end up marrying is, you can't be like, you're like a man going, yep, he's got it. Good guy, bad guy, he's a man. Well, he was known for The Godfather back in, I think, 72, 73. But even before that, there's a made-for-TV movie that made men cry called Brian's Song, with a young Billy D. Williams that you Star Wars nerds would know as Lando Calrissian. And he's a black guy, and James Caan plays a white guy, and it's based off Chicago Bears running backs in the 60s going into the 70s. One of them ended up dying of cancer, and so most of the details are fairly accurate, I'll say that. But boy, this movie is a tearjerker, and you're like, fuck, this James Caan guy can act. And it's a simple story. It's well told. It's not fancy graphics or any of that kind of shit. And I watched it, and I was like, shit, this still holds up the test of time. I thought it'd be a little hokey, but I said, I gotta watch this. I keep talking about how special Brian's Song is as a bromance movie, not a male romance, not male to male relationships like some people like to joke with Brokeback Mountain and all that stuff. I'm talking about the real deal, about how guys have relationships. And I've talked about how there's not a lot of wholesome stuff in movies generally, and that's just the nature of it. But I'm going to, at least by myself, be covering that because it's really phenomenal, and I'm ready to go. That might be 6 p.m. live this Sunday. So if so, I'll send a link out for it. Also, too, just to say it for the record here, because we have Cedric and some other people that are fairly new and long timers like Ed in chat right now. Obviously, our standards are a little different here on the Xtreme Movie Show. We do this for fun. We enjoy it. We don't sit there and act like we're the best channel that's out there or the worst, but we have a lot of fun doing it. But we appreciate the fact that over the past few years, doing something we do for free, we have an audience. And so we're getting to the point where people are starting to get a lot more engagement with us. And despite our limited lack of resources, in my case, with no Instagram, no Facebook, none of that stuff, we're about to be monetized. So I just want to take a minute and say thanks to everybody for letting other people know we exist, because that's really the best thing you can do as far as we're concerned, letting other people know that you enjoy spending some time here. Because we'll talk about what we don't like or what we don't think works in the movie, but we're not here to shit on it or get all blackpilled or any of that stuff. So Doesn't matter what country you're from, what sex or what age or politics and this and that. We just like to talk about some stuff. Typically, movies in RDV, you and I do usually 80s based action and go on from there. We've done the 40s, 50s. We've done all sorts of stuff. So, again, guys, we want to change things up here once we get monetized, maybe add another day to it, some different topics. We've been going strong for about 3 years now. We just had our 3-year anniversary. So I think it's just kind of cool that this has just kind of happened organically. So I want to say thanks. And anything you want to add, RDV, or anything you need to plug before we say goodnight?
Not much. Cedric, we are happy to see here. We love the engagement as far as people talking with us, because a lot of times we just talk to ourselves. That's cool, but it's always good to see other people coming in, maybe at a different point of view than what we're saying. You're bringing up a lot of cool stuff that we haven't mentioned. Like I said, we're all fans of what we love, and it's we all have differences, and it's cool to see what somebody liked more than what I liked, because a lot of times Rob and I don't disagree. We disagree, and sometimes we agree. Like I said, I love having people watch us. It helps out the channel too. If you like, especially if you like this show, you haven't checked out Tulsa King, go check out that. Go watch those 8 episodes, and then watch our. We did it. We covered that. We did all 8 episodes, and like I said, it's just fun to talk about stuff like this. We're all nerds, whether we want to admit it or not. We all know something, and we're passionate about it. So, yeah.
I talk a lot about, sometimes the economics of a movie or the fashion and the food. To be honest with you, I get a little snooty with that. You'll talk about like the guns and the cars and stuff.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool because we'll look at it totally different. But you and I both agree we like seeing a lot less CGI and more fisticuffs.
Well, yeah, like I said, we did a lot of Chuck Norris videos, and I'm always pointing out like it's cool because I didn't grow up in the 70s. I was born until 85, so I see stuff from like late 80s, early 90s, but seeing like San Francisco or any other places and seeing how they were back in the day when they didn't have poop on the street, and just things that were changed now that because more people move in, buildings are teared down, and other buildings are put up in places, condos, place. It's really cool watching, as far as the landscape change. I love archaeology and stuff, and just looking at like what things used to be like, and then especially look at England. Like I'm going off topic here, but still, it's like I just love the scenery. I love when they shoot on location instead of a sound stage. Sound stages are cool, but I love on scene stuff. Like bullets, the car chase.
Yeah.
It's like watch Dirty Harry. Any of those, I just love the scenery and this they said that's more. I love that more than green screen.
Yeah, we did the Dirty Harrys because we were in that San Francisco frame of mind. I think we even did Misty. Yeah, it's really cool. So, guys, if you have any specific ones that you'd like us to cover, let us know. We're leaning towards maybe doing that 65 movie with Adam Driver. We'll see if that actually ends up being the case here.
I know I'm going to see Renfield this Friday, so.
That could be a possibility as well. I know we talked about that, or the Pope's Exorcist. Those are the ones on our short list.
I definitely think the UPix will be doing that because I have no interest. So that might be the Sunday too for UPix.
I have a man crush there on Maximus. I'm not gonna lie. I'll watch him in anything.
I know. I'm just saying. I saw the trailer for that. I was like, didn't I watch this with James Woods? That there's vampires.
Stop.
He's lied to by them.
To answer Cedric's question and call it a night here. Do you think Dirty Harry was the villain of those films? The biggest difference to me, well, I'm going to say, I can see where people say this, and here's why, RDV. And we didn't really talk about this. We talked a lot about how in the 70s, how Dirty Harry, people rallied around him because they say, hey, he was a cop doing the right thing. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And we're like, yeah, fuck yeah, right? The problem is he still works for the man. The thing that makes the movies even better and different when they're Charles Bronson and Death Wish is Bronson's character was your classical liberal. I'm not even going to say bedwetting liberal, but he was a guy that learned, when you have the cops are minutes away, when you have seconds to spare. Oh, what's this gift you're giving me, redneck? It's a gun. Okay, I'm going to learn how to use it. Bang. So in its own way, while Dirty Harry films are certainly more popular than a Death Wish, I think the Death Wish are a lot more closer to what people think of as a good guy. And we've covered the mechanic. We've covered a lot of that shit. And we like them both, right? Dirty Harry covers a lot of political stuff too. Yeah. But I think we resonate more with Bronson because it's personal. Seriously.
Both movies are controversial as far as like, as he's a cop trying to do his job, but there's so much political red tape, and we see that a lot today with a lot of cops and people. There's a lot of anti-cop stuff. Not to say there's not bad cops, but I see a lot of just cops are not allowed to do anything because who runs them, and basically, like you said, that they allow people to riot. Sit back. We see in this, during 2020, there was a lot of riots, but the cops were not allowed to engage at all.
Yeah.
And they were painted. Yeah, I said.
Paid to stand down.
So and then we go to like Death Wish. Cops are because we all
bang, movie ends.
Because dude, like I wouldn't say a psychopath fantasies, but I mean like if the cops are not gonna be there in seconds, you have the right to protect yourself. But he was going after like getting street justice, as we call it. Yeah, I mean he like what happened to his daughter, man. Like it's traumatized him, and then you see his wife's murdered too, and it's like, and he realized that these guys are just the cops don't have enough evidence to go after them, so they just walk free.
That's exploitation. That's finest.
We saw that in there was another movie. We saw that with the Gerard Butler movie. I forgot what it's called, but
the Law-Abiding Citizen.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. It just skirts the line, and I love those movies because it brings up conversations. Should we be able to do this, or should we just sit and just because or just wait for a system that's not going to change, or it might change 20 to 30 years from now? And
we'll see if Rabbit Hole's got the balls to go harder than what they're doing, because if they do, even if I can overlook the storytelling, but don't do all this and then wimp out. That's all I'm asking, and that's my big fear for season 1. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining and being a part of the conversation here on the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Again, Sunday night, we're going to have a couple things, 6:30 Eastern. We're going to be doing Wayward Pines. And then right after that, 7 o'clock, the three of us will be getting together and doing something. Maybe 65. We'll see how it goes. Possible Brian's song coming up here shortly. And, of course, when Mother's Day coming up, we'll be doing our annual Mother's Day Hot Mommy movies where we talk about beautiful women in films.
I'll tell you what we're not doing. Edibles. We're not druggies like Ed.
You know what? To each his own when it comes to that stuff. And if you check out Ed Brewer's personal channel, he's got some reviews of
check out Tulsa King.
Different things. So, and it's because it's do you want the sativa blend or do you want the other blend? Do you want the one that gives you gets you up and anxious? You want the other one that kind of calms you down? I mean, there's medicinal things to it. So depending on how you roll, that's fine. In a world where marijuana is pushed, but cigarettes are bad, I mean, we let you decide because you're the audience, right? So. Have fun.
Like I said, to each your own. Do what you want to do, as long as you're not driving around.
We crowdsource our expertise when it comes to certain things like that. We just like to point out weird things in films too, like your cucumber sandwich from Mr. Bond makes my Moonraker villain one of the best.
If you're gonna have an edible or a joint, please make sure you don't burn on your house, your neighbor's house.
And Nancy Reagan would say, "Just say no."
Exactly. Just say no.
Thank you. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for watching, listening. As always, stay extreme. Extreme.